Yeah. All right. Welcome, everybody, to our monthly Chalk Talk, where we do our best to make you smarter than the rest of the people in the sport world by presenting cutting edge topics, including this evening with the amazingly detail oriented. That's enough, Brian. The amazingly in-depth and well thought out presentation by Coach Donavon. Now, Donavon is a multiple Ironman athlete, so he knows a lot about ultra endurance events. But more importantly, he is a world-class ultra marathoner, ultra marathon Sherpa.
There you go.
Which sounds, you may not know what that means, but for anybody who's ever tried to prepare for an ultra, for anybody who's ever tried to support somebody for an ultra, it is a very in-depth process, which has a lot of tricks of the trade. So, Donavon, thank you so much for putting together our presentation this evening. I really appreciate your time. And without further ado, take it away, Master.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Well, first, thanks for letting me be able to present this tonight to you guys. I'm excited about the information I can share with you. So, yep, like Lance said, I've been able to knock out a few Ironman and done a couple of ultra distances myself. And I've also crewed a lot of friends and been there, done that in the ultra world, and still trying to get some more done in that area. I'm also a USCT certified coach and a level 1 Training Peaks coach. And so I guess with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So I'll go ahead and hopefully you can see the screen here. It's full screen. And we'll get started. So you've decided to do an ultra run. And so tonight we're going to go over the logistics about how to get one of those done and knocked out. And so first, I thought we would just go ahead and define what is an ultra marathon. Essentially, it is anything over 26.2 miles or 42.2K. A lot of the other distances that you can do in ultras are 50K, you can do 100K, 50 miles, 100 miles, but at the end of the day, just remember it's anything over 26.2 miles. So tonight we're going to go over some of the logistics for planning for an ultra, racing logistics, and also recovery logistics. So we'll just start off with planning. And as I was thinking about putting this on, I came across this quote. It said, "The only those who risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go." And you know, I was pairing pictures with this quote here, and this was actually a picture that I took at 2 o'clock in the morning at probably the darkest point of one of my ultras. And essentially, it's you got to get out there and try before you know what you can do, right? All right, so one of the first few things that you need to do when you sign up for, or that you want to conceptualize the idea of doing an ultra, is you need to talk to your coach. Talk about that, signing up for the race, hotel accommodations, crew, and transportation. These are the first 5 things that you'll want to do immediately. And so we'll go ahead and get into that real quick. So obviously, yeah, you're going to talk to your coach, or if you don't have a coach, you're going to look at your season planning to make sure that you can plan for success, right? Does it make sense to do this distance this season or in 2 weeks? So you want to make sure that you make the time to get that distance done. The next thing is you want to sign up for the race, obviously, but you got to remember that there might be some other athletes out there who are wanting to do that same race. So you want to make sure, you know, if there is a waiting list, that you get on that race and you get signed up. And if you do get put on a waiting list, it can change up your logistics for training for the next several weeks or months for that distance. So the next important thing is the hotel accommodations. Especially for a race that's in a small town, right? So some of these races with the amount of athletes that come out to that town can overwhelm your accommodations abilities, right? And so you want to secure your hotel immediately. However, we have found through experience that discount hotel websites like hotels.com, Priceline, and even VRBO and Airbnb can actually cancel your reservations just weeks or days prior to your race. And the reason why that happens is because a lot of other folks who are trying to make their accommodations will pay full price for their rooms, and that's the whole point of these websites, is to get those rooms full at a discounted rate. But if they've got other people filling up those rooms, there's a good chance that you'll lose your room, and you'll get the dreaded email saying, "I'm sorry, we're overbooked." So yeah, you might want to go ahead and get the hotel or your accommodations nailed down. I'd also recommend when you're making your plans, make a solid travel day, right? So let's say, for example, most of those longer distance ultras are probably going to start on a Friday, maybe afternoon or in the evening. So if that's the case, Thursday would be a travel day for you, and you should make plans to have Thursday as an entire travel day to get there, to get to the hotel, to do a couple things. One, to convert your van over to a crewing van, or to go to your campsite and get it ready. And then, of course, when you're done with your race, you'll want to make yet another reservation for a hotel after the race. Your crew, yourself, and everybody that was helping you are exhausted. And the last thing you want to do is pile in your van and try to drive back home exhausted. So it also would be an opportunity to let your driver get some rest. And so, Ed, case in point, there was a guy, poor fella, he made reservations on one of these websites I just mentioned, and his text message came across today. And so, case in point right there. Another point, while we have travel days, is this right here. We actually had found a motorhome, and on the way to a 300-mile ultra across the state, we had a double blowout. In the process, it knocked out the braking system in this motorhome. We were stuck on the side of the road for 24 hours. It delayed us in getting started. So it was very, very stressful. All right, number 4, choosing your crew. This is probably one of the most important things that you can do for yourself getting ready for your ultra. One of the things you want to look for are folks who are positive speaking, who want you to succeed. They're like-minded. They have experience crewing. Or they're athletes and they've raced this distance or more. These folks need not to be afraid of improvising and adapting and overcoming some of these issues. Communication's great, but ultimately, these are the folks who have your safety and your race dream in their heart. And these are the people that are also going to be helping you think for you late in the race if needed, because for some of these longer races where you might be a little sleep deprived, having a good buddy out there to help you make some of these race decisions is super important. So picking your crew is very important. So I recommend that you get your crew picked out about 4 to 5 months in advance to prevent any kind of cancellations. You want to get a firm commitment from your friends that they're going to be able to help. And some of the longer races where you're going to be on the road, or a road race, you might want to have a crew chief. And that person would be an experienced athlete of maybe that distance. Another one would be a dedicated driver. And the reason why we have a dedicated driver is because of the rental insurance, right? And also it helps with navigation. They know everything about where you need to be and they need to be to crew you while you're on the road. Getting a third volunteer is not a bad thing. It gets a little tight in the van, but that person can act as a pacer when you're on the road or in the trail. Typically a pacer, will help you throughout your day, but the most common time is around 1 to 4 in the morning, but that's really as needed. One of the skills, or some of the skills they'll need to know, is leapfrogging, where they actually stay with you on the road if you're on a road ultra, not in the trail. They always need to be ready. And it's not a bad idea to set some expectations to your crew. That, look, it might be long hours, it's going to be hot or cold, it might rain. You need to kind of be okay with this. Your experienced crew and friends already know about it. One of the best tips that I can offer is make some provisions for your crew and to try to make them as comfortable as possible. Why not get like a debit card, put a couple $100 on there to cover the gas for your crew van, or any kind of provisions that they might need to go get for you. It takes the financial burden off of your crew so that they can get things done for you, or maybe even things for themselves so that they can take care of you, right? Another good thing is maybe even a little thank you meal at the end of the race. So the 5th thing you want to do is secure your van. So this is the type of van that I recommend. We've tried a bunch, and we have found that this is probably the best setup you'll see this van also out on the course with other athletes who are being crewed. It's a Chrysler Voyager or the Pacifica, even a conversion van or something similar to this. It works perfectly. Reason why, you got plenty of seats for your crew on the way to the race, and then all of the seats will fold down into the floorboard of your van, allowing you to set up your van so you can crew from this. The only time you're gonna get a van like this is if you're crewing on the road. Obviously not on for trail races. And this is how we set up our vans. You set up a mattress on the inside, and then you set up all of your crates just to the left of the mattress. And we even found that this works when you're crewing one or more athlete. It works perfectly. The far picture on the right was a complete failure, and that was us learning. So we had no room in that van. Another reason why we get these vans is because they're low to the ground. The last thing you want to do is ask your athlete to try to climb up in a Tahoe. It's tough alone just after a marathon, but something like a 50K or 50 miler, this is perfect. You can pull crates of food out, they can sit down, and you can take care of them really easy. So we've had great luck with these. All right, so those are the top 5 things that you need to do as a priority to get set up for your ultra. Next, we're going to get into the gear, course types, aid stations, your race plan, and some of the controllables. We'll go over that next. So let's talk about gear. Seriously, about 4 weeks before the race, we literally just take over our living room. And we set out these collapsible crates, we stand them up, and we start putting all of our equipment and our gear in these crates. The reason why we do this is because training for an ultra is tough enough just by itself, but you got to take care of family, you got a full-time job, and the last thing you want to do is try to throw everything together at the last minute. So this really helps with logistics and staying stress-free. So the first bucket, we created an electronics bucket. In our first edition of trying to get out there and do it, this was a disaster. Cables were flying everywhere. We couldn't find the right cable to charge certain headlights or watches or whatever. So we just started consolidating everything, and this works. Your athletes are going to have headlamps, they're going to have blinky lights, they're going to have watches, phones. So we just bundled all the cables up together. We connected it to a USB charger. And then, because of this van, a lot of these vans have inverters in them, which means you could just plug a standard AC electrical device like a charging hub right into the van, and it charges everything right there for you. Extra batteries. We also split this bucket in half and put all of your safety gear. If you are going to do a road race and you have a crew van, you need to make sure that you outfit your crew with safety vests, high-vis vests that are reflective at night. You need to take care of them and make sure that they're seen at night. You also need to be doing the same with some of these reflective strips here that you see in the first picture. 3M makes a great product. They're little stickers. They're safe for your high-performance gear that you might wear. We've tested it out, and it works on your shoes. I've got links to all of this cool stuff at the end of the presentation. Next one is the medical crate. Tons of stuff in here. I'm not going to go through everything, but some of the things that stick out to me are the Dr. Teal's Epsom salt. This is something that you can use post-race if you can find a tub or a hot tub even at the end of your race. 2 Toms powder is fantastic. If you're in a race and it's pouring down rain, or you're in the trail and there's a lot of slop out there, this makes your feet essentially hydrophobic and will keep your feet dry. If you're crewing out of the van, get some Lysol. It's tough enough with one athlete, but everybody else that's living out of the van for at least 2 days, the Lysol is great. And of course, I've got a full list of things here that I recommend that you get. Even the Colgate Wisps. When you're out on the trail, you're out on the road, and you've been eating the food that you typically eat at an ultra, one of these little toothbrushes will literally perk you right up, and it's absolutely amazing. So those are the top things that I recommend you put in your medical crate. Obviously, a first aid kit as well. Wow, look at the food. So this was, again, for one of our really long distance races. This was about a 200 miler, and we had a couple of athletes. And so what we did was we ended up putting gobs of food in snack size bags, little Ziploc bags, and the snack size bags are perfect. I recommend when you do this, get something salty get something sweet, and then whatever else, the athletes possibly want. The reason why we put them in snack bags is because they're easy to manage and they fit right in your hydration packs. They're quick and they're easy and they're ready to go. On the picture on the top right hand corner over here, you can see my crew pulled some of those snack bags, and instead of me having to go to the van or the crew area, they brought it to me, just a sample of whatever I could possibly want, and it really makes logistics super smooth. All right, so let's talk a little bit about clothing. First things I have to say about this is bring warm gear to cold races and bring cold gear to warm races. It doesn't matter, but Donovan, it's going to be 50 degrees. The forecast is set for 3 or 4 days perfectly with no rain. I hear you. But I mean, it always happens. I mean, races we've all been to, we know that the weather can shift on us super quick on a whim. So just come prepared. And the way you want to become prepared is put the clothing inside of these gallon-sized Ziploc bags. I should be a sponsor for them. But seriously, if you divide all your clothes up, put your long tops and long sleeves into a gallon-sized bag, put your bottoms, all of your bottoms in a gallon bag, all of your hats, your gloves in a bag. This helps your crew and it helps you. And the way that it helps you is if you have your phone, and this race allows you to use your phone, in most of the cases you can call your crew and say, hey, look, I want that yellow top at the next aid station. And obviously they're going to quickly see where it is, what it is, and have it ready for you immediately. So there you go. You want to make sure that you are also dressed in high vis gear. And because of the situations like up here, this athlete was running in the rain on the side of the road. Could have been it was a little sketch, but we came prepared. So yeah, you also want to make sure that you dress in layers. The start of your morning might be very cold, but if you can't and don't have access to your crew van, you have the ability to strip down and get cool and stow your gear in your pack. Yep, over here, this was a long, very hot race. And why in the world would you put a long sleeve on? This particular shirt had some cooling properties if you kept it wet. It also protected your skin from the sun as well. So it was dual purpose sunscreen, and it kept you cool. Yeah, so also pre-race clothing, you want to make sure that you get out there comfortable, but you also need to pack something really comfortable and loose. And the reason why is because of chafing, and you need to make sure that you pack some flip-flops because you might lose a nail or your feet are going to be pretty torn up. So just make sure you think about that. All right, next we're going to talk about hydration and run packs. So there are a lot of packs out there, and I have to say that of all the ones that we have tried in all of our racing, we absolutely love the orange mud packs. This is what we like. The one on the far left-hand corner over here, the black and orange pack, these packs use the same water bottles that you use on your bike, and it's perfect. So if you already have a ton of them, this pack works. What we like about it is that the bottles are clear, they're easy to refill, they're easy to reach. There's large pockets on the front of the vest, and you can cinch them down. That's obviously for your food, and what you know, it just so happens to work for those snack bags that I mentioned. They fit in those pockets perfectly. There are pockets on top of your shoulders. Those things work great with cell phones. These vests are highly visible. They've got reflective material. They're highly adjustable, and you can wash them. So we love these packs. We put thousands of miles on these packs, and they are durable, and the company is solid. All right, over here in the middle, you've got a bladder. We're not too crazy about the bladder packs because when you come up to an aid station, it's very cumbersome to have to take off the pack, pull the bladder out, and then try to get someone who knows anything about bladders to fill them back up. And then you got to try to put this thing back on. And if you know anything about when you're running, especially in the heat, you're sweaty, trying to put on a pack is very cumbersome. So it's a reason why we're not crazy about the bladder packs. It's hard to see how much you have left, and let alone what's in them. So for some of your shorter races, you can certainly use like the handheld bottles like this. It's at the end of the day, it's about what works for you. And if you're not sure, I highly recommend that you go out and volunteer at an ultra so you can try them all on and see what works and what you like about them and what you don't. Again, just kind of going over the same things here. You're looking for large pockets. Also, when you're out training and you've decided on a packet, you want to make sure that you keep some toilet paper, about 20 bucks cash, a knife, maybe some pepper spray, a whistle, just, things to kind of keep you safe while you're out running. Because when you're training for an ultra, you might be on some roads that you normally don't travel. So I've already gone over most of these items here about the adjustability and so on. Okay, good. So we went over the gear. Next, we're going to talk about some of the course types and what you need to be aware about. So essentially, there's about 3 types of courses. There's looped, there's out and back, and then there's point to point. And it's just that simple. A looped course is exactly that. It might be a 3-mile loop, it might be 15 miles. But what you need to know is when you select your race and it is a looped course, you need to expect that you're going to have regular aid stations split out. It might be every few miles, every 3 miles, it just depends on the looped course distance. If this is in a trail, then chances are you're going to be able to set up a campsite, just like the one in this picture here. All right, so out and back courses are, again, just like it sounds. You're going to have the starting line, you'll go out to the required distance, and you'll turn right back around and come into your finish. One of the cool things about out and back is that with ultras, whether you're in a trail or you're on a road scenario, is that you can have drop bags. Most races will allow you to have drop bags, and typically these drop bags will have just like the kind of things that you'd put in your Ironman special needs bag, or it could be clothes, it could be specific food items that you want that the aid stations may not have, right? If this is a road race, chances are with the out and back course on the road, you may be given the option to have a crew van, which is really cool. All right, point to point. Again, super simple. You have a starting spot and then you have an ending spot. Along the way on that course, whether it's trail or the road, you're going to have aid stations, and most of the aid stations look just like the one in the middle. And so you can expect those, especially on the course map. And yeah, you'll probably have the option for drop bags as well. So the logistics of getting your drop bags at these courses are typically handled by the race director and the volunteers, which are really awesome. And again, if it's going to be a road race, you'll probably have the option for the crew van, and the race directors will let you know. All right, good. So next we need to talk about the types of aid that you can get on these courses. So the picture on the right is, yeah, it's full meal deal. That is pretty common in ultra races, and the food is amazing. Hopefully our dietitian for LifeSport's not on. She'd probably flip out. But seriously, the food is absolutely amazing. The volunteers that make sure that they keep you fed are great. You can expect race provided aid stations will have food like this. Your crew obviously will have the specific needs that you have or for your team. Then we're going to talk about solo and also campsite. So this is what you can expect for course provided race, where the race directors have these regular aid stations out on the course. This fella right here on the left was making chicken quesadillas for all the athletes that came to his tent. I mean, that is amazing. On top of all the other food and everything else that he provided, that was amazing. And then of course, this is the food on the right-hand side that they have in addition to what I just mentioned. So this is the kind of aid that you should expect for your typical ultra race, everything from 50K and up. If you get to have a crew van for some of the longer distances, this is what you need to get set up. Here you can see our crew van and how we're taking care of our athletes. Obviously, we've got our van labeled. And then the third picture here with the LOL unicorn that is lit up. These guys were super creative and very smart, and ever since we saw this, we adopted the same thing. Of course, we didn't make ours a unicorn, but what we did do was we put Christmas lights on top of our van. And the reason why we did that is because, with some of these longer races, it's dark, you're racing through the night, and there are a lot of other athletes and a lot of other crew vans out there trying to take care of their athletes and find them. And these guys were super smart because they lit up their van, and boy, I tell you what, you couldn't miss the van out on the race course. The athletes always knew where their van was, so there was no guessing. Where are you? I can't find you. Or if the cell phone signal was miserable, there was just no guessing. So yeah, so finding a great crew van and that little tip was super helpful. All right, so this is a least likely scenario for some of the longer distances. Essentially what this means is when you go solo, it means that whatever is on your pack is what you have, and that's going to get you and need to sustain you through the entire ultra distance. Again, this is not common, and yeah, so this is the scenario. I mean, literally, you might have at most a stack of water out on the course, and that'd be about it. So. All right, so if you have your own aid station at a campsite, typically again at a trail, this is how you would set up your table on the left-hand side here. You've got all of your snacks ready to go if it's just you. If you're out there with a bunch of friends, sharing a tent, sharing is caring, right? So you all of your friends, all of the crews, all of the athletes will pitch in. You can light your tent up, get a generator, get the extra tents, set up the campfire, and you'll probably even camp out there, right? Or at least your crew might. But yeah, setting up your table at the campsite and something like this, if you don't have a crew, is crucial, because when you get to the tent, you don't need to dilly-dally around, and you're not going to have the time. So having everything laid out ready to go is super important. This is how we do it. All right, so let's kind of get into a race plan here. So one of the first things you want to do about talking about your race plan is obviously talking to your coach if you have one. If you don't, you need to sit down and figure out some real basics here. You need to know your course time limit. You need to know how many aid station stops there are and how long you plan on staying at these aid stations, because the time will really rack up. And then for the longer distances, where you start getting around 50 miles, maybe 100 miles, you're probably going to want to include some sleep. These 2-day races are going to make you pretty tired, so you definitely need to think about maybe adding at least 45 minutes of sleep time, which actually equates to 1 hour, right? So once you know all of those things, you're going to be able to come up with your minimum pace. And having a minimum pace going into the race, knowing that is big. It's huge, right? And you also, if you have a crew, which you probably should for this distance, you want to make sure that your crew knows your goal, right? I'll say this: in all of the races that we've done, all of these times and goals have changed. So be flexible, and but you do want to have a good idea about your race times. So with every race, there are controllables, and one of the best things you can do is bring your attitude with you, or have a good attitude at your race. Things happen, right? I've been to races where the soles of shoes have fallen off athletes, their feet, and if it weren't for some duct tape out there, man, the race would have just been lost, right? Having the ability to improvise and adapt and overcome some of these crazy issues that happen, you got to have that mindset when you get out there. And that's with all of our racing that we do, right? Having that plan B and that plan C, being okay with things going sideways on you, right? Broken shoelaces, flat tires happen, so bring a spare, right? Some of the things you can't control, obviously, are the weather, race cancellations, course conditions. Case in point, one of our races that we were going to go do on the trail, it was bone dry, perfect conditions, and then literally last minute, the course turned into just a muddy slop, and it changed everything. But having a good attitude about it, knowing that everybody else is going to be out there having fun with you, doing the same course, just makes it all worth it, right? So at the end of the day, this is an adventure. It's not a paid vacation. Being mentally okay with the issues, if you expect them to know they're coming, it really changes the way the race comes out for you with the outcomes. All right, great. So we've talked about some of the planning. We went over the gear, course types, aid stations, your race plan, and just knowing about the controllables, right? Having the right attitude. So next, we're going to get into some of the racing logistics. So obviously, when you go out and do one of these ultras, you want to make sure that you have fun, right? It's so common that you see a lot of athletes in the crew with costumes and having a blast, right? Tons of shenanigans. Get out there and have some fun with this, right? It's epic stuff that you guys are doing. So when it comes to racing logistics, we're going to go over talk about the van setup, camp setup. We're going to talk about athlete tracking, quick stops, and rest and sleep. I've already hit on them lightly. So again, when you're setting up your van, I mentioned those crates earlier in the beginning, like the month before the race or 2 weeks before the race. These crates are already packed up and ready to go. And literally, in the last picture on the right, all you have to do is literally inflate your mattress and put the crates on the left-hand side of your van or whatever you want, and the van is set up perfectly. You might want to throw in a couple of sleeping bags for each athlete. Typically, it's going to be 2 at max. The pillow, and then of course you'll have all of your food in there. The campsite, again, you've already seen these pictures and how we set it up. And you want to make sure that if you do have friends going out there, it really makes logistics easier because we all take care of each other while we're out there, right? Or our friends and other crews take care of other athletes, and that and mentality and attitude of it's kind of like an unhona, a family atmosphere. Everybody takes care of everybody out there. So when you're setting up your campsite, try to see if you can share with your friends and other crews, and it really makes for a really good time. Athlete tracking. Why do we do it? Well, so a lot of these races, it's perfectly okay for the athlete to carry a mobile phone with them. When you're out on the road and you're in your crew van and you're trying to find your athlete, having an idea about where they are so that you can drive to them is super important, right? You need to know that not all cases, and don't fully expect 100% that you're going to be able to track your athlete on the mobile phone. Sometimes cell phone signals don't work great, right? So this is another point where if you can't instruct your athlete where to go and the course is not clearly mapped out, this application called Run Go is a lifesaver. We actually use this for Charleston Ultra. It's a 100-miler, and most race course directors are going to put turn-by-turn instructions on their websites. We took those instructions, we put them inside of this Run Go app. What this Run Go app does is it gives turn-by-turn instructions to the athlete. For example, it'll say, in 400 feet, turn right onto Hampton Park Drive. And this was incredibly useful and saved us because if you couldn't get in touch with the race director, cell phone signal was not great. The map was on the phone. The athlete knew exactly where to go. And so this was incredibly helpful. The way we did it was we installed the app on the mobile phone. It's free. And we just had one earbud and one ear so that the athlete could stay aware of the surroundings and also get those important cues to some of those complicated areas. This might also be useful where a van does not have access to drive into the race course on the road. We haven't found or tested that this works on the core in trails, obviously, but for crewing on the road, it's perfect and it works great. So we highly recommend this. Quick stops. So like we mentioned earlier, if the athlete can carry a phone on them, in most cases they can, why not call ahead? For example, if you're the athlete and you know that your van is going to meet you right around the corner up there or at this Coliseum or some landmark, being able to call ahead and say, hey, look, it's starting to get cold. I want that yellow long sleeve jersey, and can you make me some ramen noodles? And just to kind of help you warm up, and I want my orange gloves. Having the ability to call ahead reduces the amount of time that you're taking to be crewed. So we found that incredibly beneficial. Again, when your tent is set up and your aid stations are set up at your under your tent or in the van, and you've got this bucket of food that you can take out to the athlete, these things contribute to super fast, quick stops, which means you can get your athlete back out on the road, back out on the trail, ready to go. Okay, yep. And so, yeah, let's just move on. Athlete rest and sleep. So for some of your longer races, it's important. You're just gonna need to sleep, or you're going to need to rest, and it's not uncommon. But I would say if you've got a crew van or you're out in the trail, whatever scenario, if you are going to take a break, we learned this tip from a couple that had been doing ultra races for years, and they said just prop your feet up on a tree, on a van, anything, just for 10 or 15 minutes. And so we adopted that into our strategy, and you would not believe how helpful it is just to kick your feet up for 10 to 15 minutes before you head back on the trail. I would highly encourage you to do this in your rest stops. For those scenarios where it's time to sleep, your crew needs to start a stopwatch so that they don't keep you longer than what you've allocated or planned to do. I would recommend that you go ahead and get changed into some fresh clothes before you take your sleep. I would also recommend to try to eat before you take your nap. It's easier on your gut, and the worst thing to try to do is fall asleep when you're starving, right? For colder races, we recommend that you use a yoga mat or some type of barrier between you and the ground, because the ground will suck the heat out of you and make you cold, right? So you want to try to get a sleeping bag or something. And obviously you want to try to elevate your feet. While you're sleeping, your crew needs to be taking care of your phone and charging it up. They need to be charging your watch up. Pro tip, if you have a Garmin watch and you keep the activity active while you're sleeping, which is very common, you can charge your watch while that activity is still going. Pretty cool. Go ahead and swap out batteries for headlamps or anything like that, replenishing drinks, food, all in your hydration pack. Your crew needs to be doing all of that for you while you're sleeping. And then we recommend about 15 minutes before it's time for you to get up, 15 minutes before you plan to be back on the trail, give yourself about, 15 minutes before you hit, before you hit the trail to kind of wake up and perk back up before you head out. Waking up and then hitting the trail or the road is just not possible. You won't be able to do it. Yeah. So another thing, if you are going to be on a trail, you want to make sure that if you do want to rest and it's in the middle of the night, don't go off course. Stay on the course. Prop your feet up on a tree if you have to. We have seen some issues where athletes wanted to get off the course, didn't want to be in the way of other athletes, and they ended up getting lost. And so just stay on the trail. It's perfectly okay. Athletes understand if they pass, they might ask you, hey, are you okay? But that's the safest way to do that. And obviously, if you're being crewed on the road, wait for your crew vehicle, obviously, right? Okay, so we went over some of the racing logistics, how to set up your van, athlete tracking, some of how to do a quick stop, and taking care of your sleeping and resting while you're racing. So next, we're going to go over recovery here. Boy, oh boy. So you've been out there, you've endured it all. Everything from really bad sunburns to heat exhaustion to blisters, you name it, you've lost some toenails. Everything, these kind of things happen on your ultras, and being prepared for this is important. So we've got a few tips here for you. Getting your van converted to like a recovery scenario here. Literally, your crew hopefully will have some latex gloves as they're taking care of your gear and some of your feet, but they hopefully will get you situated in the van for the ride to the hotel that hopefully you were able to get reserved. Getting in some of those compression boots, getting into those comfortable clothes, having the hydration and recovery options right next to you so they're not having to pull over all the time and get it to you. You're definitely not going to want to move, so making sure that you have access to that. When you get to your hotel, some things that we have found that worked and that were great is the last thing you want to do is have interrupted sleep because of your feet. And so, I kind of came up with the term a toe tent. Make a toe tent. What is that? If you've lost toenails or you've got some really bad blisters or your feet are just incredibly sore and very tender, what you can do is stack up a pile of pillows at the end of your bed and put the comforter over that. And essentially it stops the comforter from hitting your feet. And you would not believe that if how good you can sleep if you can just get your feet protected. We've got an athlete that has really bad issues with her feet, and it becomes very sore and very tender. And we had to do this, and she was able to sleep through the night, and it really made a huge difference. So that's why I'm sharing this with you. You just wouldn't believe it. But yeah, also the Epsom salt. Hopefully you've got some of that, so you can take a soak. And if you have a hotel situation where you may not have an elevator, some hotels just don't. Try to get a floor on the a first floor scenario. Asking your crew to bring all of your stuff in is kind of yet another big ask after spending a couple of days in a van. So you can do that, great. If you can't, that's fine. Massage. Not all ultras have massage therapists at the end of the ultras. This was a rare scenario, but if you can schedule a massage after your race, this would be more than ideal. The main thing about it is that when you schedule it, don't schedule a deep tissue massage, obviously. Not a good scenario there, but a post-race massage is absolutely fantastic. If your race venue actually has this, do take advantage of it. It really will help with your recovery. So another little pro tip here is you're not going to feel like walking, but I promise if you will try to get up in the gas break sessions, like as your crew is driving you back, try to get up and walk around. Even if it's just from the car to the gas station to get like a water or something, and then just trying to walk back. Try to stay mobile as much as you may not want to. It definitely helps. All right, gang. So we really went over a lot of here. We went over the planning, we went over the racing logistics, and some of the things that we found with recovery when it comes to ultras. So these are a lot of the resources that I have here for you. If you do want to sign up for an ultra, ultrasignup.com is the probably one of the better places to go find an ultra race. A lot of folks know about it. It's very popular. The Run Go app that I mentioned, where you can have the GPS tracking with the turn-by-turn, the free application, it's Run Go app. I have a lot of gear that I have put together on a website, and it has all the things that I recommend for ultra running, for triathlons, everything, like even swimming, a ton of stuff right there. If you're looking for an ultra watch, the Garmin Fenix 6S is a really good watch. This is what we use today. If you have a Forerunner watch, or like a 930 or 730 series watch from Garmin, you can actually make it work, but you'll need to carry a charging cable and a little spare battery pack with you. But you can make it work. It'll actually do it. But not the best scenario, but it'll do it. 2 times blister shield, making your feet hydrophobic or almost waterproof in a sense. You can find some of that there. If you are doing a trail race, you need to make sure that you have some shoe gaiters. We love Dirty Girl trail shoe gaiters. They make the best gaiters for your shoes. And what I'm talking about is that bottom right-hand corner there with the purple gaiter right there. You definitely need to have those. And then, of course, the Orange Mud hydration packs that I mentioned earlier. If you are interested in a hydration pack, I've got a discount code for you, because my girlfriend, she's an ambassador for them. We love them so much. They asked her to be one. So it's a great product. But yeah, so that's all that I have for you guys. I don't know if you guys want to open the floor up to some questions or anything like that. I'd be glad to answer them.
That was awesome, Donavon. What an amazing amount of information. Thank you.
Oh yeah, it's a ton of stuff. I had more pictures than I did probably content, but it's just, it's a bunch of shenanigans, bunch of pictures, bunch of crazy fun stuff that we've done.
That's cool.
But yeah, super
and
cool.
we can definitely make this presentation available to everybody after, since the slides are so detail rich, and if people want to go back and revisit them. So just let us know. We can make that available.
Oh yeah, super cool. Super cool.
It's almost like a playbook. It was really well organized, Donavon. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. No
I was actually getting excited about signing up for one until I saw the pictures of feet, then I kind of changed my mind.
I was actually debating about not putting that in there, but I got to set some expectations here. But no, seriously, ultras are a ton of fun, especially if you got the right crew with you, and yeah, you can have a blast. It's a ton of fun. Folks there.
It seems like figuring out how to really protect your feet is huge, hey? And do you do a lot of preconditioning of feet before? I've read a little bit about that, but yeah. Yeah,
through your training, I mean, obviously you're going to be getting your feet used to, the tendons, the ligaments, and the muscles in your feet will get accommodated, are used to those distances. But of course, the calluses too, right? And then of course the types of shoes that you'll have, everything from stability shoes to shoes that are a little more that bend with you easier, right? So
embrace your calluses. Don't go and get a pedicure and get things softened up. Yeah.
Yeah, with all of the training you'll be doing, your feet will definitely be prepared. But yeah, the blister shield is probably the most high-tech, best stuff that we have found out there to take care of your feet. It literally stops them from turning into a huge prune, right? So you just put about a scoop of that in your socks before, actually in all of your socks at your races, and whether you're trampling through a trail with a river running through it, or if you're at an Ironman even, or something like that, or a 5K, you can pour water literally over your head, and your feet will not get wet. The socks might be wet, but your feet will stay perfectly dry. It's good stuff.
I did notice lots of socks on the floor in your packing.
Lots of socks, of socks, and lots of gloves, lots of gloves, latex gloves, because as a crew member, you definitely don't want to.
Yeah.
But,
my other takeaway that I never would have thought of was the Lysol. So that's
Yeah,
I like
when you
I like the foot tent. I thought the foot tent was a really good
isn't
idea.
that crazy? I mean,
Yeah.
I just totally guessed about a toe tent, right? And sure enough, of course, it's out there on Amazon. I mean, I told Jennifer about it and she's like, no way, they've got a toe tent. And I'm like, yeah. And she says, it looks like something you'd find in your refrigerator rack or something. I'm like, it kind of does.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
great.
yeah. But,
Does anybody have any questions from the folks who joined us for the talk? I know we had a bunch of people who weren't necessarily thinking about doing an ultra, but we're just really curious, as to how one organizes it. I have to say your electronics bin's been really appealed to me.
Organization. You just like the organization.
I do.
Well,
Everything
yeah.
has its spot. Yeah.
Everything has to have its spot when you've got, even just with one person in the van and you're trying to navigate the course and the insanity that is ensuing. Being organized, we have found it was paramount. It really helps you help your athlete staying organized. When they need something, you need to be able to find it at a split second, right? And when you have these buckets separated, you know where to find things and where to find them quickly and get them to your athlete because your time is precious because you're racing. So being prepared and organized really is important.
I don't know if I missed it, but I know that I've had a couple athletes do the UTMB, mountain runs, and there's a bunch of regulations on things that they have to carry.
Really?
Like extra clothes and safety equipment and that kind of thing, and that's one of the real challenges for that for those events is actually figuring out a really efficient way to carry all the extra gear with them and I think they have to be self-sufficient because they're out in the mountains, which is maybe a totally different gig, but interesting challenge.
This is one of the things you didn't mention at all.
What do you got there, Dan?
That's an
GPS
inReach
tracker. Oh, for
so it's an inReach. So I got this for like wherever I go either on my gravel bike or my motorcycle. There's no cell service, so this uses the Iridium satellite system. So I can text. I've got various people I text. So
that is
for anybody who's worried, whenever I go off into the bush, I always have this now. It's made by Garmin, and you have to have a subscription to do it. But I think that's kind of what Lance was talking about. Some of the sort of more remote ultras, I think you got to carry something like this. You have a way to contact people.
That is great.
There's like mandatory extra jackets and things you have to bring to you. It's quite interesting.
That's a cool gadget, Dan. I may hit you up for a link on that one. It's the Iridium, right?
Yeah. No, it's from Garmin. It's called the inReach.
Garmin inReach.
And actually, if you can buy subscriptions so that people can actually follow, like it'll drop breadcrumbs as you go,
right?
So they can follow you on Facebook or follow you anywhere and see what you're doing. Because it's satellite based, you pay for it.
Yeah, right. And that actually would probably be better than trying to use a mobile phone because mobile phones don't necessarily have data or towered coverage, right? In some of these areas, especially the trails, right? And this would.
Yeah. I only use this, as I say, I use this as a backup for whenever you can't get cell service like this. There's so many places. You just get off the highway here in Victoria or in Vancouver Island and you're not in cell service.
Yeah, so that's super cool.
The one thing I did, I don't know if this it doesn't seem like this was part of it. It's just sort of like when you sign up for a 100-mile race, like you're not going to run 100 miles in the lead up to the event. So we didn't really talk about the sort of the structure, or was that supposed to be another topic?
Yeah, I think that's another one. We actually had a full presentation from I think it was Chuck who did it. Yeah, which is recorded on how to train for ultras. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no, so definitely check that out.
This was
I'm curious with the people attending here, Andrew, Lindsay, Christina, Megan, Lisa, Brian, have you done or have you thought about doing an ultra run? And Christina, what do you I see you nodding? And any learning or takeaways from today?
So not done an ultra, but I got a taste of it by doing the Pikes Peak Ascent 2 different times, and then I did Pikes Peak Marathon, which is up and down the trail, for Pikes Peak. So it's something where I don't know if you remember my husband Paul. I said, like Long Bucket would love at some point to be able to potentially qualify and then do Leadville 100, and he's
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, no, you're not allowed to go do that. But
That's a tough event.
but there's a but there's a couple of ultras, like half, I probably would start like with a of course with a marathon, and then kind of building my way up. So I got to go and look at Chuck's presentation,
Yeah, you
and
should.
but looking at next year,
Yeah.
to do one. So it's good to know what you need, that way you can answer Christmas perfectly.
Yeah, got a little bit garbled at the end there, Christina, but I would like to say that you can obviously reach out to Donovan at any point as well. I'm sure he would be happy to field a few questions for you if you have any queries along the way on helping you out getting there. Yeah.
I have a question for Donovan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is there a way to do ultras with zero waste? Like, I guess eliminating the use of plastic, kind of like bringing your food without all that.
Yes, a lot of races have switched over to cupless, like cupless events and stuff like that. Could you use something other than plastic? Absolutely. I can't think of anything right now, but I'm sure there's some way that you could carry your food with you. I mean, you could solely rely on what's on the course, right? And you could just pick from the table, but it's kind of a gamble because you really don't know till you get out there for each race what they've got on the tables. It's really a gamble. And if you've got a sensitive tummy and they've got something out there that you just don't like, then you're kind of up a river, right? So you've got to come prepared. There's other nutrition solutions where you could actually, drink your nutrition. That might be a tough one for someone to get through, but I could see it might be possible. You're going to get tired of it though. If you only have one source of nutrition, your palate's going to get turned off from it. And, you're going to have to find some alternate solutions, alternate, fluids, if that's the only way that you're going to, take in any kind of nutrition. But going without any kind of plastic or paper or anything like that, that's a good one. The best way that
I think it's, I like the question, and I like the problem. We used to run, I used to co-own an event called the Banff Marathon, and we, Dan will remember, we used to advertise it as the world's greenest marathon. And at the end of the weekend, we would have a small bag of garbage from, 3,000 participants. And, it was cups made out of, it was like a corn product, which would actually biodegrade. Of course, the only problem is if it got hot out, they started to melt. We even were shipping gel packages back to Great Britain. Was the only place that we could find to recycle them. And then we hired a consulting company to basically count carbon emissions. And it was interesting. But Megan, I'm going to challenge you to go back through the presentation and look at Donovan's suggestions and come up with different suggestions for packaging and carrying, and let's see what you come up with. Because
I actually just thought of something. A lot of those race courses, you remember how we talked about the looped course, out and back, and point-to-point courses? Those courses allow for you to put drop bags at aid stations, and that is where you could put your food, if you have special requirements for nutrition, in the glass containers, and leave them in those bags at the aid stations along your way. And so if you had them in glass containers, there you go. Problem solved, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah. Great. Awesome. I just feel like Andrew's got something to ask. I don't know why.
Well, I was just
You're on the edge of your seat. I can just tell. It's percolating.
Yeah. I mean, Megan, I've done a few myself, just solo, really. So those have been pretty lean in terms of waste, right? And I use a bladder and then just stop at different drinking fountains I know about that I'm aware of around our small island where I live, and then pretty much do it all on my own. So I've done that 3 or 4 times with groups.
Amazing.
Cool.
And
Very cool.
bring our own food, pretty much.
And in
So,
Singapore, you're going to go through a lot of water.
Yeah.
It's darn
Massive
hot
amounts.
there.
But I've mapped out the very few drinking fountains across the island. So as long as you know where you're going, you can do that. Because you can't carry it. I mean, I carry 3 liters and then drink it and then refill it and then drink it and then refill it. And then for food, I just bring my own food, like homemade stuff. So it's probably not completely zero waste, but I guess in an organized event, it would be much harder. But when you're on your own, you know, it's up to you. You have control, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I was also thinking, you don't have to throw everything away all the time. I mean, I reuse Ziploc bags and reuse them many times rather than just using them once, like for all of Donavon's organizing everything, you put it in and use it again the next time too. So that reduces
And it tastes good when you get peanut butter and jelly mixed with cashews on your next run.
Oh yeah. But you do want to make sure you throw the
And you're
gloves
like, oh,
away.
that was the sock bag.
Yeah, exactly. You do want to throw away the gloves and the socks, keep them separate.
Yeah.
Peanut butter flavored socks are not good.
Oh, awesome. Well, we're coming up on 6 o'clock. Any last questions or comments? Lisa, Lindsay, participating?
The feet picture, even though I'm not a long distance runner, but the feet picture totally did it for me not to do.
Oh no. Are you saying I need to put more costume pictures in there?
Yeah, I like the flare.
Okay, gotcha.
More like less feet pictures, more massage pictures.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
I'm just fascinated by the logistics. I have no interest at this point for doing one, but I'm fascinated by those that do, and just how much planning and everything goes into it. So this was interesting.
It
Sure.
is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you probably could do a similar presentation just for racing an Ironman. You know, it's whenever you have somebody getting ready for their first Ironman, it's like, how do I carry everything? What do I put my special needs? Where do I check in? What happens in transition? Where do I go? You know. So maybe that'll be your next project, Donovan. Next month you can come back and do the same thing for Ironman. We'd all appreciate that. Didn't take long to put that together, did it?
Not too long. I actually had a ton of pictures already, so it was just like, okay, just throw them up there. That's why I had so many slides.
Oh, it's fantastic. It was really, really thorough. Yeah, no, it was great.
Yeah. Good times.
Yeah. Well, listen, I guess I'd just like to say thank you again, everybody, for coming out and making the time. And thank you, Donovan, for sharing all your experience and expertise. Just fantastic and super thorough presentation, and a real resource for all of us in the future as well. So not just tonight, but I know that, you know, next time I have an athlete doing an ultra run, I will either point them to this or I might go back and watch it myself again, because you know, my retention rate will probably be about 12%. So
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Great. So without further ado, have a great evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out, and we'll see you at the next Chalk Talk.
Thanks, everyone.